So the Japanese people are somewhat neurotic, and that they worry about the worst scenario. Not all of them, but the Japanese personality, among the Japanese personality, there's this certain element of neuroticism, and it is a very interesting phenomenon that in Japan right now, some people are concerned with the worst case scenario where other nations might actually overcome this COVID-19 pandemic. But Japan, because of its lax attitude toward this pandemic, especially in the government sector, might actually fail to come out of this pandemic, and it may be actually last of all the nations. Oh, of course, it is not a practical assumption, but some people do worry about it, and we see these postings on the social media that Japan actually might not be able to go ahead with the Olympics next year, which was postponed from this year, because at the time other nations in the world might have overcome this pandemic, but Japan hasn't because of this insufficient measures taken by the government. So you may laugh, at this kind of obsession, but it's certainly happening, and it can tell you something about the Japanese character. Realistically speaking, I don't think Japan would be anything special in failing to adapt to this pandemic. I think Japan would actually handle this pandemic rather nicely, at least on par with other nations with sufficient resources to deal with it. But the fact is that some Japanese do feel kind of traumatic about the government's failure, passive failure to deal with the pandemic, so that they even think about the impossibility of holding the Olympics next year when other nations have successfully overcome this disease. So if you know the Japanese people, this is something typically Japanese. But they worry about it too much. But actually, what they actually do probably better than the average reaction to this pandemic or anything else on the global scale. So I am just reporting on this typically Japanese personality trait, neuroticism in this situation.